Hello, this is the African teacher, Maurice Odhiambo, right here in Nairobi, Kenya. So the latest news from the war of aggression in Iran is that the US has or intends to reinforce the blockade of the Strait of Hormuz. And this has left many people surprised. Most analysts think that this is supposed to coerce Iran to accept Donald Trump's peace terms. But that is not the correct interpretation. The correct interpretation is that the blockade of the Strait of Hormuz by the US is meant to save the petrodollar system, which is quickly collapsing. Now, of course, on the surface of it, one might say that this will add to Iran's asymmetrical strategy. Iran has implemented two strategies in its asymmetrical approach to this war of aggression. The first one is the attack on the US military bases across the Arab world. Now, that attack has really diminished, or the attack on those US bases has really diminished US power in that region. The second strategy has, of course, been to blockade the Strait of Hormuz and also demand that only friendly ships will pass through, but only if they transact their oil in the Chinese currency, that is the yuan. So, of course, as you know, and if you have been listening to me, this yuanization of the Strait of Hormuz is now contributing to the imminent collapse of the petrodollar system on which the US economy is anchored. Now, if the petrodollar system collapses, the US economy itself will collapse like a pack of cards. I've already told you many times that Saudi Arabia is the main anchor of the petrodollar system, courtesy on an agreement that was entered way back in the early 1970s. Saudi Arabia and the other surrounding Arab countries also get a lot of benefits from this system. For example, their currencies are pegged to a standard. They have a standard exchange rate to the dollar. So that has been very, very favorable to their economies. So back to my question today. Back to my premise today. The only reason the USA is reinforcing the blockade of the Strait of Hormuz is to stop the yuanization of the strait. In other words, the yuanization of the Strait of Hormuz might just be the last nail on the coffin of the petrodollar system. Now, this is also compounded by the fact that the BRICS countries have already come up with alternative payment systems to replace the Western-dominated systems of global payments and global transactions. It is that system dominated by the US and its allies that has allowed the US and its allies to impose sanctions to control the policy-making processes in many countries, to do many things that have really, really hurt other economies. Now, the BRICS nations, one of their core principles, one of the things they are really implementing is the de-dollarization campaign. And the yuan, the Chinese currency, has become the currency of choice because the Chinese economy is strong, and therefore China is seen as the main counterweight to the United States of America. Also, finally, after the bombing of the Arab states by Iran, their faith in the ability of the United States of America and its allies to protect them has basically collapsed. Now, once that faith collapses, once the US is not seen as a guarantor of security for the Arab states, they will have no reason whatsoever to continue kowtowing to America's policies. They will have no reason whatsoever to continue selling their sovereignty to America and its allies. Now, this is the biggest fear that Donald Trump and the American administration have. All those factors are contributing to the collapse of the petrodollar system and the yuanization of the Strait of Hormuz, which they never foresaw. That yuanization of the Strait of Hormuz is now their biggest headache. Hence, the blockading of the Strait of Hormuz, not by Iran, but now being reinforced by the US itself. Now that is called transition of power. A major power shift is happening in the world. The world is becoming multipolar. And this war and the yuanization of the Strait of Hormuz and the possible collapse of the petrodollar system are the biggest ingredient of that power shift.